Through the grassy green Maidan, it moves with a rasping noise. When the last rays of the sun sets in with its cool breeze, one reaches their destination and takes a quick look around and see it move in its slow swaying manner. It was the golden era of the tram during that time in Kolkata. Through the hustle bustle and the congested roads of BVD Bagh, buses and the tram used to move unhesitatingly through the specific lines of the main roads. Even through the screeching sounds of the buses and horns, its royal, serious, ton-ton sound was distinctly heard. People could easily understand that tram was approaching. Its looks, movement, behavior could easily distinguish it from the other vehicles. No other vehicle had first class or second class compartment like trams. It can be conquered that tram was the railway of the roads. It is still existent in Kolkata. Even during this period of acute distress, this eco-friendly public transport is running through the heart of Kolkata for 150 years.
কলিকাতার ট্রামের গানে নিশ্চিন্তি মনে প্রাণে ছোলা ভাজা হাতে লইবা কোনো টেনশন নাই এখানে হাসি মুখে বসো গো কন্ডাক্টর মশাই খোলা ময়দান বাতাসে লাগে না কিছু মন্দ আহা কি আনন্দ ট্রাম চলেছে ভাই ঢিক্কির 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 ট্রাম চলেছে ভাই ঢিক্কির 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 ট্রাম চলেছে ভাই
There was a time when if a child was asked to draw a picture of Kolkata, just like a picture of Shantiniketan is asked to be drawn, one would definitely draw a bowl. Same way, a child would draw a tram for a picture of Kolkata to be drawn. It was quite easy to doodle too, like some boxes with antenna and some wires would depict the picture of a tram in Kolkata. Tram was a huge source of nostalgia for all the people of Kolkata. Just to get a window seat while travelling in a tram was a matter of enormous satisfaction.
Year 1867. According to Act 9, the title holders of the Justices of Peace were the administrative power of the municipal area of Kolkata. They were the first to initiate tram as a mode of transport in Kolkata. In 1870, with the help of the Government of India, the process got sped up. During that time, the only medium of water transport was the Hooghly River. Most of the business centers and the warehouses were situated near its banks. So all the goods that came to the Sialdah station were destined for the Hooghly River. The Justices of Peace were forced to use tram as a medium of transport. According to the survey of the Eastern Bengal Railway, it was seen that if a tram runs between Strand Road and Bhawanipur, it would be much affordable. It was also noted that the transport of goods from the Howrah station to the various parts of India through the Eastern Bengal Railway also became easier. After a discussion with the then provincial government, they formed a committee. Finally, they proposed that from Sialdah to Bobazar till the Hooghly River bank, a tram line should be placed. Along with that, from the Armenian Ghat in the north till Ahiritola, and from there through Shobha Bazar till Chitpur Bridge, another tram line should also be placed. In the initial stage, rupees 1 lakh was approved. Even though after the lines were placed, the budget rose to about 1.5 lakhs. In the year 1873, tram begins its journey on the 24th of February. From Sialdah through Baitakhana, Bobazar Street, Dalhousie Square and through the Strand Road, till the Armenian Ghat terminals, the horse-driven tram marked its first 2.4 miles journey. Every tram had 2 Australian Whaler horses. On the inaugural day, 1 first-class and 2 second-class trams initiated the journey. Even though there were lots of arrangements for goods transportation, but passenger transportation gained popularity from the very first day itself. A report in the Contemporary Englishman newspaper stated that although the first class was more or less empty, but the second class was crowded with enthusiastic passengers. But within a few months, the tram authorities faced near about 500 rupees of loss per month. So in 1873, on the 20th of November, this transport was stopped. It was decided that the entire infrastructure, including the tram line, would be sold to Mr. McAllister.
Every time I came out of my school, the tram line was just in front of the Scottish Church Collegiate School. And since the opposite locality was my own locality, tram was always convenient to me. So I used to get up on the first class compartment from a stoppage. I used to stand near the gate since I could not afford to buy a ticket back then. I used to travel until that conductor came along. On his approach, I used to get down and move to the second class compartment. In there too, when the conductor came, I used to get down immediately. Shambazar tram depot was right in front of my house in North Calcutta. At present, I stay just beside the Goriahat tram depot. So you can very well understand that tram has been an important part of my life. One more thing I feel is, at this age of my life, I feel that the fast and the slow movement of the tram has influenced the fast and slow movements of my life also.
The next tram service in Kolkata started in the year 1878. 2 entrepreneurs from London, Mr. Dillon Paris and Mr. Alfred Paris, and businessman Mr. Robinson Shooter of Liverpool requested Kolkata Corporation to restart the tram transport. In 1879, they made a pact with the Kolkata Corporation, which came into action in 1880 through Act 1. In the same year, the Calcutta Tramway Companies in London became a private statutory organization. At the initial stage, a draft including the construction of tram lines, its maintenance along with laying down of single and double lines, with the construction of 8 different lines was submitted. The 8 different routes were the following: from Sealdah Station to Dalhousie Square via Bobazar, Chaurangi Road, Chitpur Road, Dharamtala Street, Strand Road, Shambazar, Khidirpur and Wellesley Street. Annually, the company decided to pay the corporation a sum of Rs 2,000 per mile as a revenue for single line per annum and Rs 3,000 per mile for double line per annum. In 1880, 1st November, the passenger tram was officially inaugurated in the city of Kolkata. Meanwhile, since the tram lines were constructed 2 inches above the street level, it started causing disruption for the pedestrians as well as for the other vehicles. Throughout the next decade, by placing stones above the concrete roads, a measure to correct this fault was initiated. In the summer of 1881, due to the heat, quite a few horses died. In this situation, in 1882, 1st of May, on the routes of Chaurangi and Kalighat, besides the horse-driven trams, the tram company, as an experiment, introduced the steam-powered trams. This service enhanced the speed of tram transport. At the same time, the pilgrims of Kalighat temple were also benefited. But due to some small accidents, this service was stopped after 1 year. In 1895, the tram company had 186 trams and about 1,000 horses for 19 miles of tram routes, which transported 130,000 passengers annually. The horses were kept in 6 depots such as Shampukur, Chitpur, Sialda, Kalinga, Bhawanipur and Khidirpur. During that time, there were no fixed stoppages for trams. Instead, there were stations or stables for changing horses, where the passengers could have snacks and the trams could change horses.
I am totally a city person. Never woke up to the sounds of the birds. It was always the noise of the trams that woke us up. The first tram used to come out at 4 a.m. in the morning. During those days, the confectioners would throw out the leftover pieces of sweets in the night and the pigeons would eat them the next morning. And when the first morning tram used to approach, making a metallic sound, the pigeons would hurriedly fly off from the middle of the tracks. And believe me, it was a remarkable sight, as if it was a scene from a movie. The funniest thing was that after watching the night show of Suchitra Sen and Uttam Kumar, we used to return by tram from Hatibagan at midnight, and if the conductor would doze off, we never had to buy the tickets also. Another tram ride that I used to love along with my family was that from Esplanade through the Moidan area and Khidirpur till Alipur Zoo. Through the lush greenery of the Moidan area, the tram ride was a splendid journey. I wonder why this lovely transport would be stopped and abolished from the city of Kolkata. It is true that the roads of Kolkata are narrow, and through them when buses and taxis and other vehicles run, tram transport seems to be a nuisance. In many places, the tram transport has been stopped by the public demand. Economically, I can't say for sure, but in this pollution-riddled world, such an eco-friendly transport like tram would be ideally conserved by any civilized nation.
In the year 1896, the Kilburn Company submitted a proposal to the tram company for an overall electrification of the tram service. In 1899, a draft agreement with several amendments was accepted by the tram company. According to this agreement, the tram company, within 9th of December 1902, had to change all the horse-driven trams to electric trams and change all the 3 feet 0.3 inches meter gauges to 4 feet 8.5 inches standard gauge. And in the end, instead of Kilburn Company, the Dick Carr and Company got the work of electrification of trams. In the year 1902, 27th March, the first electric tram ran through the Khidirpur route. In the same year, on the 14th of June, first electric tram ran through the Kalighat route. Slowly, within the 19th of November of 1902, all the routes had electric trams instead of horse-driven trams. In that same year, Nonapukur Central Workshop was constructed. Within 1903 and 1910, electric tram services extended till Toliganj, Belgachia, Bagbazar, Raja Bazar, Mominpur and in the Behala routes. It is mentionable here that the first electric trams were known as A to I class. In the initial days, the power supply was taken from the Howrah and Nonapukur power stations. 6,000 volt AC power from the Calcutta Electric Supply Corporation and converted it to 550 volts DC and started distributing it to 8 substations. For that, it required 80 miles long overhead wires and 150 miles long underground cable lines. Immediately after the electrification, Calcutta witnessed the class system in the tram transportation. Within one compartment, first class and second class system was introduced. After this, within few years, the tram route extended directly from Howrah Pontoon Bridge Junction to Sialda Station through Mahatma Gandhi Road. A direct track could not be constructed over through the pontoon bridge to reach Howrah station.
Since Nonapukur was the tram's workshop place, we witnessed how tram was constructed, maintained and kept alive. As a worker, I have experienced that roughly 12 trams per month had to be renovated. Technically, we can say that we had to regenerate tram's life once again. And along with that, half painting or sometimes quarter paintings had to be done. During those days, daily 320 to 330 trams used to run throughout all the routes in Calcutta. And mainly economically backward common people of Calcutta used to depend on the trams as their daily transport. During those days, people availed trams not only to go to the Howrah station, but even to go to bathing in the Ganges. Nowadays, people depend on taxis or on other vehicles. But in those days, if people had to go to Sialda station, they used to take trams. If they had to go to the Howrah station, they preferred trams, and even go to bathing in the Ganges, they preferred trams. It can be found in many articles that during those days, people used to wake up hearing the sounds of the crows and the electromechanical sound of the trams. I was amongst them who experienced and witnessed those historical days.
In the meantime, between Calcutta Tramways Company and Howrah Commissioner, a treaty was being signed in 1905 so that the tramways could extend their routes in the Howrah city. According to this treaty, a branch of Calcutta Tramways was extended across the Ganges at Howrah. In 1905, in the month of June, a tram route was operated from Howrah station to Bandha Ghat. In this year itself, the work of electrification of tramways was over. It is to be mentioned here that due to the absence of loop lines, two-way tram system was operated here. In 1908, through Grand Trunk Road till Howrah Shibpur, the tram lines were laid down. Within the first 3 decades of the 20th century, tram routes spread over Raja Bazar, Park Circus, Rash Bihari Avenue till Baliganj. In the early days of 1920, bus transport started operating in Kolkata, which invariably made the trams face a competition. Hence, the Tramways Company also had to flow with the system. And this was the first time that the buses of Calcutta Tramways Company started operating in Kolkata. Starting from 1920, for the next 5 years, these buses plied in between Park Circus and Howrah Pontoon Bridge. In 1931, the tram company imported quite a number of articulated rolling stock from the English Electric Company. 2 or more parts of these special trams were controlled by a sensitive junction point. These trams were known as J and K class. In 1942, 14 L-class trams were constructed at the Nonapukur workshop and commenced their services in the city of Calcutta. Must be mentioned here that these special trams were known as Hathi Gadi.
In 1985, when I joined the tram company, I joined as conductor. Later, when I realized that I don't want to work as a conductor, they gave me the job of a driver. I requested my supervisor for the same. When he asked me why did I want the job of a driver, I replied that since there are various troubles and the conductors have to face while handling the passengers, I wish to take the job of a driver. In my life, I took the role of a tram driver and I did quite efficiently throughout my working period. My record was also quite good. I carried both the duties of last car and first car. After my training, I was posted at Khidirpur since I stayed in Khidirpur, and for nearly 22 years, I served as a driver in the tram company. See, if there is a break
first pull the key at the back. Don't drive at all. After that, again apply the brakes. Only pull the keys at the back. This is the only way to drive a tram. If you pull the keys at the back, then only the tram will stop. Whenever we used to start a journey from Joka, we used to keep an eye on the school children. We used to detect the children through their school uniform. There we had to be cautious that there were two people to check, and even if the conductor does not give the bell, we had to stand in front of the school. The mothers used to make their children board the tram and return home. In the month of February 1943, through the newly built Howrah Bridge, the Calcutta tram service got connected to the Howrah tram service. 2 decades after the independence at Nonapukur Central Workshop, many A to I class electric trams of the first era went through necessary transformation and were changed into M class trams. In 1951, according to a treaty with the West Bengal government, Calcutta Tramways Act of 1951 got passed. According to this act, West Bengal government would acquire all the rights of ownership, acceptance from the Calcutta Tramways on 1st of June 1972 or within 2 years of notice. During this time in the tram service, instead of different colors for different depots, route markings of 1 to 50 were initially provided. In 1964, in the city of Bombay, after the tram services were closed, 45 pairs of trams were brought to Calcutta. These were known as the Pay As You Enter or as Pay. In 1967, the 19th of July, Calcutta Tramways Company Act was passed, and it stated that the West Bengal government had taken over the administrative rights of the Calcutta Tramways Company. Between 1970 and 1973, since trams from Howrah to Badhaghat, Shibpur, Nimtala and various routes were on the verge of closing, few two-way trams of Howrah underwent some necessary changes and were included under the Calcutta Tramway service. Within this decade itself, 2 exclusive first-class beautiful tram services were introduced in the city of Calcutta. In 1976, 8 November, Calcutta Tramways issued an ordinance and acquired the tram company and all its properties by the government. In the 80s, on the centenary year of the Calcutta Tramways, it received grants from the World Bank, which enhanced the tram service. In 1985, 17th April, Bidhannagar terminus was started, which was the first expansion of the tram service after independence. The next year, on the 31st of December, the expansion work of Behala-Joka route was completed. In between 1987 and 1988, some more rolling stocks got joined with Calcutta tram services from the Byrne Standard Company and Jessup Company. In the 21st century, with the expected changes, instead of wood, fiber cast body was introduced in the services of Kolkata. In 2016, 8th of June, Calcutta Tramways Corporation, Calcutta State Transport Corporation and West Bengal Surface Transport Corporation, all 3 were included into West Bengal Transport Corporation.
During our childhood, there were trams and double-decker buses which we used to avail on the weekends to roam around the city with pomp and joy. The rides in these vehicles helped me to connect with my friends, neighbors and fellow citizens. We used to get a chance to know each other better while traveling together. This helped in strengthening intimacy and socializing. In trams, there was no obligation and the fares were also quite cheap. I could explore the whole city. I used to bunk my school and sometimes got caught too. And when they hinted at closing the tram service, I faced a difficulty in my existence. I felt I am demobilized. My movement was being restricted. So for that reason, I came to save the tram service. There are many people who came here and felt free to say that tram was more or less our private cars right from the morning 4 a.m. till midnight. Whenever we had to avail the vehicle, it was right on time. Maybe we had to wait for a couple of minutes, but we knew that it was sure to come. During that time, whenever I used to visit Esplanade, there were various models of trams. I could choose the sides to sit wherever it was sunny or the shadow side. There was a choice of freedom in life. There was no way to get stuck anywhere.
In 1994, Roberto de Andri came to Kolkata from Melbourne, Australia. On seeing the huge expansion of the Calcutta Tramway system, Roberto, a tram conductor and a driver in Australia, was awestruck. He felt that his own city, Melbourne and Kolkata, had crossed all boundaries of time, space and country and had become one. He boarded the tram from Esplanade and reached Belgachia. This tramwala from Melbourne was warmly accepted by the workers of Belgachia tram depot. After returning to his country, Roberto and artist Mick Douglas held a meeting with the Melbourne tram workers. It was decided that an unprecedented tram friendship would establish between Melbourne and Calcutta. In 1996, with Roberto's initiative, through the development plan of Calcutta Tramways, started a new journey of tram. That was the beginning. Except for a few years in the middle, for 2.5 decades, a tram festival is being celebrated annually on a regular basis between innumerable tram lovers of both the cities. To celebrate this tram festival, many a times, Bondhu, Calborn, Shundori, Poribesh Bondhu, Gitanjali and many other trams were introduced. In 2016, Calcutta Tram Users Association was developed in Kolkata, which was a non-political tram lovers association. They, through various programs, are continuously trying to save the tram services in Kolkata and trying to spread among people the usefulness of this eco-friendly transport system. In shaping this successful tramway system, Roberto had got these tram lovers as friends by his side.
1990
In 1990, there was a news that to save from loss, tram company would run buses. But in any index, whether it may be per head cost or per kilometer cost, the loss that the bus services faced was more than that of the tram. And it was seen during that time, one after the other, various tram depots were being demolished, buses were brought in, and total chaos was going on. And during that time, as such, nobody was familiar to us. There was a dissatisfaction among citizens because the alternative transports like buses, taxis, auto rickshaws, etc. were not acceptable by them. There were reasons for that. During that time, there was no internet in the world. I had mailed many handwritten letters to different countries of the world stating even when we have all the necessary amenities for tram service, but it is being destroyed in a planned way. One more thing was that during that time I had reviewed world's tram service and had observed that tram services were coming back. In 1940s and 50s, those countries who have abolished tram services were once again bringing the transport back. And economic success was the main reason behind it, because nothing sustains if economy is not there. I wrote many letters to different countries, but particularly in Belgium and Melbourne, there is a public utility service. The letter that reached Melbourne coincidentally fell into the hands of Roberto, who was a tram driver as well as a conductor. He came to Calcutta in the early days of 1994. He surveyed the tram services in Kolkata and started the Calcutta-Melbourne Tram Friendship Legacy. His main intention was to propagate and see that the huge assets of Calcutta tram service system was not destroyed and is being used to the fullest.
He came to Calcutta many times at his own expense, sometimes alone, sometimes with a few other friends, sometimes with a team of 17 to 18 members. He brought with him loads of cards, leaflets, photographs and many other things, but in respect to that, we had given him nothing. And it was seen that whenever they used to come to Calcutta, the authorities of the Kolkata Tramways used to run the trams with great enthusiasm, and they used to make lots of promises also. But the moment they used to leave the city, the tram system used to go back to its previous state in no time, and gradually it used to go from bad to worse. In 2016, when Roberto was given a warm reception in Esplanade, many of us were there in favor of tram. We never knew each other very nicely. And it was there we decided that this was not only a job of a foreigner, but we also must try to preserve this transport system. So there we formed an unofficial organization named as City UA. And later on we made the necessary official works like registration, PAN card, bank account, etc. Our only intention was to bring back the tram service system in Kolkata as it was there before. Most of the routes were closed. So to bring back awareness, we organized many programs like making posters, doing conventions, holding seminars, putting up exhibitions, distributing leaflets, visiting different depots and demonstrations, etc. We have a group and we call it as our Tram Jatra. Basically, it is a Melbourne-Calcutta Friendship Tramway Group. It is an organization which has people from Calcutta as well as from Australia who loves tram as a transport system. It is not only a journey by tram but also a spiritual journey. Spiritual in the sense that it is not a journey where few people just get inside a box and travel from one place to another, but how they make the journey, how they enjoy the journey. Whenever they look out of the window, how comfortable they feel in the journey. That is what is different in that Tram Yatra. Tram is an essential transport system in the city of Calcutta. We made a theme of heritage, clean air and green mobility system. These three are closely related to the tram. It is one of the topmost heritage things in Calcutta. If you talk of clean air, this is the only transport which provides clean air among other transports. If you talk of green mobility, of course there is zero carbon emission. This is the best thing that we have. And so we made this as our theme. One more thing that we thought was that tram is an institution and a legend for Calcutta. It is running since 100 years. So on its birthday, it cannot remain unseen and unheard by anybody. As members of Tram Jatra, we decided to celebrate its birthday.
The tram of Kolkata is not only a pride or tradition of Kolkata. For us, it's an eco-friendly transport system, and I hope, along with other CTUA members, that necessary steps is being taken by the government to maintain the system. For educational purpose, I have come from Burdwan and currently staying in Kolkata. This is the first time I am traveling in a tram. Never thought that I would become a part of this tram yatra. We have decorated 3 trams to celebrate its 150th birthday. One of the tram is still there in Esplanade. It is a vehicle of 1938 and this car was built in 1948. All the cars belong to the pre-independence and independence era. We have done a lot of work, especially to maintain the trams.
সারা
experience with this tram jatra has really been superb. Okti Victor Balo. It's very special. Melbourne's the only true surviving tram system in Australia, and of course Kolkata, it's the same story in India. Well, my experience as a Melbourne tram conductor was unique. Melbourne is the only true surviving tram system in the English-speaking world. So we had a tradition of performing conductors, singing conductors, poetry conductors, storytelling conductors, conductors that flip their tupi up and down, circus conductors. We had a rich tradition of tram conductors that not only collected tickets, fares please, tickets thanks, or gave mothers with children assistance, but we also entertained, a small group of us entertained the passengers on a daily basis. Special to Melbourne. Think about the environment, biodiversity, the plants and the animals of Australia and India, trams pollution free, the Great Indian Hornbill we painted on the front of the Puribesh Bondu tram. So we give to everyone animals from Australia and India. So we have the Great Indian Hornbill. We're thinking that trams are a good citizen for the environment. Wellington, Wellington, Shambhajajabe. So we do this here is the insects.
What a marvellous experience. My first time to Calcutta with Roberto, my friend. He said, come along. He said, Calcutta is a city of joy, and it has been so much joy. The tram junta is fantastic. So many people who are so interested in maintaining the trams of Calcutta, not just for heritage, but as a place where you've got a balance between trains, buses, cars and trams.
Wow.
The last tram has come to an end when the last words are uttered or the last unknown eyes search for somebody along the lines of a poetry. Then tram becomes a character in Tilottama. When a character of a very well-known writer comes to catch a tram in a nearby stoppage at Hedua, he becomes the main attraction of the story. As Rabindranath Tagore has famously said, all the roads that run like a snake carries the tram on its back with lots of noise. If an essential part of culture is feature films, then there also the tram has an immense presence. Many directors have used trams. It became an inevitable part of famous scenes. It has witnessed many ups and downs throughout its long journey in the city of Kolkata. Sometimes a victim of irate mobs, and sometimes due to inflation in the fare, its wheels had been stopped. Many times it has been accused of slow movement and the reason for causing traffic jams. Sometimes due to the work of the metro railways, sometimes to maintain the bridges, and sometimes due to cyclones, its movement had been stopped. It has been seen in the last decade that the tram service has decreased significantly.
দূষণ এটা একটা সবথেকে বড় পৃথিবীতে থ্রেট
This is a threat to the world. Everything is deteriorating. There is a global anxiousness. A pollution-free traffic system should be there. For this reason, Calcutta tram service is very important. Things have changed from the past. So, especially in the east-west areas where metro railway doesn't run, there should be a pre-planned tramway system unlike the north-south areas. In places where metro isn't viable, there with fine planning and in proper way, tram services should be constructed. Kolkata is one of the most alarming cities in India and in the world where pollution is very high. So in the places where people really need tram as a necessary transport, this service should be implemented. So if this service is being called off, it would be a very threatening decision for the citizens.
From the colonial era till post-colonial era, in the heart of Kolkata, tram was not only a medium of public transport service, but it had blended into the human soul and consciousness. Hence, the expansion of Calcutta's living document tram service is imperative. So, for this liability, we must not only preserve our heritage, but also preserve our environment.